Just how much better is the new iPad mini 7 compared to the old iPad mini 6? Well, in this video, I'm gonna be comparing everything, including the performance, the speakers, the cameras, the displays, to see if Apple fixed the jelly scrolling issues. And I also wanna see if the A17 Pro chip is too hot for this small chassis. Well, let's get right into it. So we have the new mini right here, and honestly, I'm very surprised that Apple doubled the storage. You can see right here, 128 gigabytes for the same price as the old one, 64 gigs. So that is definitely nice. Let's get this out of the box right here. Man, I love how just small, whew, I love how small this iPad mini is. Take a look at that. Even though we do have some camera differences, you don't see any difference physically, but take a look at this. We now finally have iPad mini, which is actually so satisfying instead of the previous just simple iPad text right here. Let's see, everything else looks honestly very similar. I mean, it looks identical from the outside, including Touch ID and pretty much everything. Oh, wait a minute, guys, take a look at this. I'm actually seeing a huge difference on the actual Apple Pencil connector. Look how slim it is on this new one compared to the previous. This could actually be helpful for, I guess, rigidity of the structure, or it just signifies that we have new Apple Pencil Pro support, which I will get into in this video. Oh, and look at this. We also get a braided USB-C cable. That's very nice. We get the 20-watt power brick, which is definitely enough for the mini. Now, the first thing I want to do is test out the speakers and compare them to see if they've improved them this time. And no, it seems like they're exactly the same, no difference, so let's move on to the next test. Now, one thing that Apple did change for sure is the new USB-C port, which is now faster. So let's go ahead and do some tests in terms of the storage and the USB-C. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see 64 gigs on the iPad mini 6 and 128 on the mini 7, so it's really nice that Apple doubled the amount of storage. So let's see just how much faster you actually get in terms of storage transfer speeds. And holy smokes, guys, look at this difference going from 616 megabytes per second read sequential to 1546 on the iPad mini 7, and almost triple for the write speed. Of course, write speed matters a lot when it comes to the amount of storage that you actually have. The actual read-write latency is a lot lower as well, so you do get faster speeds in terms of everything, which is actually really nice. And now for the file transfer test, I have a card right here which has a 10 gigabyte folder of a bunch of videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and basically plug it in to the iPad mini 6 first. So you can see right here, 10 gigabyte transfer test. I'm gonna drag and drop it, open up right here, open up on my iPad, and as soon as I drop it, I'm gonna start this timer. Boom, there you go. You can see that loading bar right there. And this iPad does have 64 gigs of storage, and about half of it is full. So that might have some sort of an impact, but I mean, it has 30 gigs available, and this is only a 10 gigabyte transfer test, so it should not slow down compared to if you had it completely full. Sheesh, guys, that took flippin' forever. 3 minutes and basically 20 seconds to transfer this 10 gigabyte folder on the iPad mini 6. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the mini 7. Start, there you go. We have the progress bar. Holy smokes, it's going fast! Can you guys see that? Are you serious? No way. Dude, Ben, this is nuts.
That's nuts.
Okay, hold on.
16 seconds.
16 and a half seconds, basically 16 seconds. So 3 minutes, 20 seconds is basically 200 seconds divided by 16, 12.5 times faster transfer speeds. And now with that said, guys, I wanna move over to the displays, and Apple's already confirmed there's no difference in the display technology. Same resolution, same size, same brightness, everything is identical. I also looked at the display itself, same reflectivity, no upgrades in coatings, anything else. But the biggest issue we used to have is jelly scrolling, which you guys have seen our video before. I think it's improved. It's really hard to tell, but I can see, if you look at the text, I can see that there still is jelly scrolling. Oh no. Okay, Apple has not fixed the jelly scrolling issue, unfortunately. And now let's jump into performance. We have Geekbench 6 opened up right here. We have the A15 Bionic chip on the Mini 6 going all the way up to the A17 Pro. That's a pretty dang big jump because we have the A16 in between it, skipping a generation. Not only that, but you also get double the RAM. You can see right here, 4 gigabytes of RAM compared to 8 gigabytes. That is really nice. So let's actually do a CPU benchmark to see the difference. All right, guys, we got our scores right here. This is actually pretty impressive. Red Bull break, no product placement. All right, so 38.25% faster single core. This is actually faster than we got on the iPhone 15 Pro Max with the 17 Pro chip. We got 2849, so we are getting higher on the single core right here, which is nice. Now in terms of the multi-core, 39.5% faster multi-core. Guys, that is a pretty dang good improvement gen over gen. Of course, we're skipping the A16 chip, but that's actually really, really good compared to a lot of the other iPads. That is very impressive and probably more than enough compared to what you'd need. Of course, we also have the Speedometer 3 benchmark right here. Let's run it. This is basically like a web browsing test to see how fast and snappy your iPad's gonna be for general web browsing and things like that. And look at that, it's flying through the test. I'm curious to see how big of a difference this is gonna be. All right, we got the score 31, which is crazy good for Speedometer 3.0 compared to 24.1. That's about 28.6% faster. Nice difference for web browsing as well. Next up, let's do a Geekbench AI. Let's see like the AI difference by skipping that chip up to the A17. Let's do the Core ML Neural Engine, because of course we know we have faster Neural Engine and AI performance. Of course, this iPad mini supports Apple Intelligence, which is really cool. We actually just got the update this morning, and it's actually been really nice so far. I can't wait to show you guys more. Definitely subscribe if you want to see a video going through all the Apple Intelligence features. And whoa, look at that, guys, 33,881 points. That falls in line with what we got on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's almost twice as fast. Let's see, about 91.2% faster than the previous iPad mini 6 that got 17,700. So that's a really big difference in terms of AI performance. It's gonna help with Apple Intelligence. Of course, it doesn't get the same score as the current A18 Pro gets. It's like over 50,000, but it's still good enough for Apple Intelligence, which is great. Now with those out of the way, I do want to get into the GPU benchmark. Of course, we have a faster GPU and we also have the extra RAM. All right, we got our scores and this is not looking too great. Only about 28% faster in terms of graphics. That is not so good, but you gotta keep this in mind. The A17 Pro chip in this mini is only a 5-core instead of the full 6, which means Apple binned it, gave it the extra flawed bin chips that were laying around after the iPhone 15 Pro Max. They put those in here, so it only has 5 cores, only 26,000 points, so it's only 28% faster. But if you look at this right here, it might not be perfectly in focus, but right here on the left, we have the iPhone 15 Pro Max with the 6-core. It gets over 28,000 points, and then of course the A18 Pro, 32,000. So it's nowhere near as fast as the previous gen iPhone, but as you can see, 28% faster. That should still help for gaming. And speaking of gaming, we have 3D Mark open right here. I want to do a couple of tests like Wildlife Extreme. This is basically gonna show how much FPS we should get in a modern game that's optimized for ARM chips. So let's go ahead and start this, and keep in mind that gaming really does matter a lot for this iPad because of the iPad mini size. It's the perfect size for games like Call of Duty Warzone or whatever else you can play. It's just so nice. So let's see the FPS difference. All right, we got 18.3 FPS on the Mini 7 compared to 15.1. 21% faster in terms of FPS in Wildlife Extreme. I mean, I guess it's okay. Not super great, but it's still okay. All right, guys, this sucks. I was literally gonna run Steel Nomad Lite, which is a much more modern version, much more modern benchmark that's more in line with like AAA gaming, but look at this. You don't hit the minimum RAM requirements for this test. You need 8 gigs, can't even run it. So with that said, let me just do Solar Bay, which is kind of like a ray tracing benchmark, and we should see a big difference here because the A17 Pro chip does have ray tracing cores. All right, there you go. That is a big difference when it comes to ray tracing. 66% faster on the new A17 Pro chip in the Mini. Look at that. Finally, we're getting a difference. That's actually really big. But now it's time for a moment of truth test. I have our thermal camera right here, and I'm gonna do a wildlife extreme stress test, which is 20 minutes long, which simulates the kind of real world scenario where you're playing a game for over 20 minutes to see how much the FPS drops between the two, because the A17 Pro is a very hot chip. So let's go ahead and do it. I got the thermal cam. It's been just about 20 minutes. Let's test this real quick. On the front, we have 31 degrees Celsius on the iPad mini 6 compared to actually just 30 on the mini 7. We're almost finished. I do want to turn these around and take a look at the temps of the back real quick. All right, looking at the back, look at that. 33 degrees Celsius on the iPad mini 6 compared to 33 degrees Celsius on the mini 7. The same exact temps, but I do see a bigger area on the new mini 7. Oh, 34 degrees. It just got a little bit hotter compared to 34 on the mini 6 as well. Both are going up to 34 degrees Celsius. That's pretty dang hot on both of them. So it makes me think that Apple could be cutting the performance of the A17 Pro chip, because it should definitely be running hotter. And yep, I can confirm throttling on the A17 powered Mini 7. Take a look at this right here. First off, the best loop score, which is the very first run, was 32% faster on the Mini 7, which is great. That's a lot higher in terms of FPS. But if you look at the lowest loop score, the Mini 7 is only 16.7% faster in terms of the worst possible score. And in fact, if you take a look here, the best loop score of the Mini 6, 2756, is actually higher than the lowest loop score of the Mini 7, 2749, which means we do get throttling. And you can see that shown with the stability score, only 75.4% stable compared to 85.4. That's basically the amount of difference you lose from throttling. You actually see that in this chart right here. Look how big of a spike you get down from that top score down to the second, and then it stays flat for literally 20 minutes. That means the second loop was already throttled and it kept it the same to keep the temps the same. Same thing here on the Mini 6. The first score is great, and then it drops down to the second, although it does not drop nearly as much as the Mini 7 does, because the A17 Pro chip is a lot hotter. This is actually quite interesting. It does throttle. So what does that tell us? Well, basically, the real-world gaming FPS that you'll experience is only 16.8% higher on the Mini 7, even with the much better A17 Pro chip. It's not that big of a difference. Now, what is different is the Apple Pencil support. Now, the previous Mini 6 supports the Apple Pencil 2, which was great, very nice, but the new Mini 7 supports the new Apple Pencil Pro, which is really cool because it has a bunch of extra features like, let's say, squeeze. You basically just take it off and you can squeeze to bring up this awesome little menu. You also have hover, which you can see it's interacting with my movements, which is pretty cool. And it also, of course, has the double tap as well. Look at that. This one also has double tap, but it doesn't get the squeeze. The Pro also gets Find My support, which is a really big deal if you tend to lose your small accessories. That's really nice to have Find My on this thing. And it also gets this cool barrel roll feature. So you can see I have it hovered, and as I'm doing barrel roll, look at that. It's changing and moving, which I'm not an artist, guys. Well, that's pretty cool. You can see how on this thing, you don't get hover, nothing. You don't get no barrel roll, nothing. It ain't changing at all. The Apple Pencil Pro is definitely a big deal. So before I move on, I just wanna do this really quick, subscribe, there you go. All right, I'm back. I took a bunch of photos. Now, starting with this selfie, I am actually seeing a difference right away. You can try to see a difference in terms of HDR, like in this light bulb, but you don't really see it. The one place I do see a difference is in the contrast, because this looks really gray and flat in terms of the details. Like, let me zoom in. Oh, that's too close. You can see how my hair is really gray, and yes, I did wipe the camera. It is not blurry, no fingerprints, nothing. It's doing a much better job in terms of processing. You can see my skin tones are not all yellow and warm. They're now much more natural, and the highlight roll-off is more natural as well Plus, you get better contrast. Overall, much better. Moving on here, you can actually see a difference. If I get a little bit closer, you can see it does a better job with HDR because you can see the texture and the grain in our 100K YouTube plaque, whereas this is a little bit more blown out. You could instantly see that difference. That's nice. I took a picture outside. Here you couldn't really see much of a difference in terms of HDR. I guess you don't have as big of a kind of solar flare up at the sun. But right here, you can also see a difference. This light right here is also very gray, while you get nice black tones and contrast on the new iPad Mini 7. And once again right here, look how the white balance is really cool and it all looks really gray. You zoom in here and you get much better colors that pop. The green really pops right there with the Smart HDR 4, and also looks like I get a little bit more detail right there as well. So, wow, this is actually really impressive. I didn't expect to see that big of a difference. But of course, if you're just taking photos on an iPad, who really cares with these little minor details? The camera itself is still the same, but you can tell the difference if you're looking for it. So there you guys go. I tested a bunch of stuff in this video. So what is my conclusion? What can we actually take away from all the findings in this video? Well, first of all, you're getting a lot better value. You're getting double the RAM, 8 gigs instead of 4, double the storage. At the same price, you're getting a faster chip, faster USB-C port, faster storage speeds, better gaming performance. You're getting all of that for the same price as you were before, which is awesome. Now, would I upgrade from the Mini 6 to the Mini 7? If I could, absolutely not. Do not upgrade. The differences aren't that big. Yes, it's a lot faster in multiple ways, but it's not enough to justify spending the same amount of money again. Don't do that. But what this video does prove is that you get a much more compelling and much more competitive iPad mini with this new 7th generation. Definitely a lot better in so many different ways, and it now stands basically higher in the iPad lineup in terms of which one you should buy. And once again, this is my favorite iPad out of the entire lineup because it's the best at doing iPad things. It's easy to hold in your hand. It's better for gaming, better for kids. I absolutely love it. So with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, definitely subscribe because I'm gonna do a which iPad should you buy updated video very shortly. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Definitely check out one of those two right there. Thanks for watching. This has been Vadim from Max Tech, and we'll see you in the next video.